In the last video that you watched with me, we talked about genetic diversity. Genetic diversity is very important, especially in the world of crop and agriculture. So, for instance, suppose you go to the grocery store and you are in search of the perfect summer tomato. Well, if you go into the proper grocery store, you're going to find things like this. That's called genetic diversity. Not all tomatoes are equal, and it's meant to be that way. Some of the tomatoes, like heirloom tomatoes, have a different taste, have a different texture, have a different size. They have a different purpose. Some of what we would call the little tomato tomatoes, or the little grape tomatoes. Those can come in all colors, just like normal tomatoes can, but they're much smaller. They typically have a different purpose in cuisine and culinary. But this is what we call genetic diversity, and genetic diversity is very important. We want you to have these options. Variety is the spice of life. So if you go into the grocery store, we just do not want to sell you only one type of tomato, and that's the only tomato that you're going to get. How depressing and boring would that be? You can make a beautiful tomato salad with these tomatoes that you see on the screen. It's all you would need. A little olive oil, salt, and pepper. All the different colors, all the different textures, all the different taste. And they're all classified as a tomato. In other words, think of life having only one type of person. And that one type of person would all look the same, would all behave the same, would all act the same. Could you imagine? No, absolutely not. So genetic diversity is very important in this field. And with the incorporation of genetic modification, what we're finding is that the genetic diversity of crops, especially in fruit and produce, fruit and vegetable, is slowly dwindling away year after year after year. Genetic diversity really was kind of the driving force that allowed these species to continue to grow, to continue to develop, to continue to modify and change. It was almost Mother Nature's way of test driving certain vehicles. All of these tomatoes that are out there, which ones would do the best? Well, we'll slowly pull away from this type of tomato and we'll allow this other type of tomato to kind of do its thing, proliferate. And this was just part of natural selection. But now with genetic modification, what we're realizing is that everything is becoming the same. Think about it. If Monsanto makes a seed, that seed is going to grow corn. That corn is going to die and it's going to go away. And the next year, the farmer's going to buy the same exact seed, probably with very or no genetic modification. All of the corn from one farmer, and the corn from another farmer, and the corn from another farmer, they're all the same corn. The big four conglomerate companies, they own 70-80% of that. Remember? And now we almost are going through a very dry spell. A dry spell of diversity, a dry spell of different flavors, of different textures, of different colors in the produce section in the grocery store. To make it scarier, remember I said Mother Nature's way of test driving a tomato. Why? Well, let's say that a cold spell happens. The temperatures get really, really low. Half of these tomatoes go dead. The crop is lost. The other half might survive. It's good for them. We at least didn't wipe out the entire tomato population. Or a disease comes in. Some type of virus, some type of bug eats them all. Does it eat every one of them? Does the virus attack every one of them? There's probably going to be some varieties that are left over that survive those attacks. Well, a drought, something as simple as rain and weather can have a devastating effect on it as well. And it can wipe out thousands of acres of crop. In addition to this, we are eliminating genetic diversity. Everything is becoming the same, and it's the same thing year after year after year after year. And if that crop, which is like all the other crops, all the other produce that is getting grown, vegetable, fruit, if it suffers those harsh weather conditions, if it suffers that virus, if it suffers the plague of bugs that come its way, every one of them get wiped out. Could you imagine going into the grocery store, buying corn during the summer, and basically being told, sorry, we have no corn? All of the corn basically was ruined due to the weather that we had. If genetic modification was still in play, well, why can't we ensure that we are making genetically diverse crops? That way, if something like this happens, we do not have to worry about a shortage. Why? Because of money. That takes quite a bit of research to us to go in and change these things and give you multiple different versions. This is what Mother Nature does best, right? We'll leave this up to Mother Nature to take care of. We only really want profit, so therefore we will genetically change one thing out of that item, and then we will infiltrate the farms with that one product, and basically everybody will grow that one product, and everybody will sell that one product, and if something bad happens to that one product, then it could be wiped out. Patents. So another problem with genetic modification. Genetic diversity was one. Patents are going to be another. Most people don't realize this, especially if you're not a farmer. But farmers have to pay licensing fees. That's right. Those that buy GMO seeds have to pay a fee. They buy the seed, they plant the seed, they grow the crop, and they pay a licensing fee in order to do it. When they pay this licensing fee, they also sign a contract. That contract between the farmer and that Big Four company probably will dictate how they can grow the crop. No longer can farmers make those decisions. This is a driving force that's led by those four big companies, Monsanto included. In addition to those contracts, what they're signing off on is that the seed companies that they are purchasing those items from can come and inspect farmers at any time. They can just show up at your door. Hey, I'd like to take a look at what's going on here, to make sure that you are not in violation of the contract that you've signed when you purchased the genetically modified seeds to grow on your farm. Now do you start to see the problems? Do you start to see the horror stories that can happen from genetic modification? GMO seeds don't come back. We've already talked about this. Farmers have to rebuy those seeds year after year after year after year. Why do they do it? Because the companies need to make money. The companies that make the genetic modification, they want to ensure their livelihood. They want to ensure they can give paychecks to the people that work for them and the CEOs that run the companies. Well, because of that, one of the ways we can ensure this is to not have the seed come back. Farmers, well, they've been sued. They've been sued for what they call seed piracy. And this is basically unauthorized GMOs that show up in their fields. Remember that diagram? I talked about two farms up and down the road from each other, and I said that this genetic drift could happen due to wind or due to bees or birds or any other type of pollinator. Okay, well, if this person that was a non-GMO farm discovers GM crop on their farm, they are a pirate. They are a seed pirate, unbeknownst to them. But if they have been discovered to have genetic modified organisms in their fields and growing in their fields, even if they were not aware of it, even if it's not their fault, they can still be sued. You, in your hands, have a product that is patented. You did not pay for that product, so therefore this product is not yours. If you've been selling this crop, well, that's money that you've made. That's not really your money. It's really ours too, because those were our seeds that you grew. Our seeds made you the profit. Very similar again to software on a computer. If a person buys software and shares it, puts it on their computer, and it gets placed on multiple computers, and the company finds out about it, you're using software and you didn't pay for it, they can sue you. You didn't purchase the license for that. The same thing's happening here. And then finally, down at the very bottom, research on genetically modified seeds are illegal. If a company releases genetic modified seeds onto the market and the farmer decides not to plant all of them, but a farmer decides to take a few of these seeds and go to a competitor and says, listen, I just bought these seeds. Here they are. This is who I bought them from. Why don't you in your laboratory look into these seeds? And why don't you do some research on them to see what they've actually done? You can't do it. Not legally, of course. So they've even prevented the research that comes along with genetic modification. The company can do research that's making it. The company can work as much as they want to with their seeds and continue to, quote, improve it. But a competitor or someone that does not own that seed and the rights that come along to that seed cannot do independent research on it. It is classified as illegal. Now you see again the problem with genetic modification. Now you see why some people do not like the idea of GM, either in an animal or a fruit or a vegetable or even in a bacteria. These things are taking place, and these things are taking place every single day across the United States. But it has become very common language, common conversation. This is the way it's going to be at this point in life. Therefore, GM. We kind of started this conversation about talking about, is it good or is it bad? And I told you you're going to make up your own mind. Some people do believe that GM is toxic. GM is toxic to your health. GM is toxic to the farmer. GM is toxic to the agriculture business. And for many of the reasons that I showed in the last slide. Look at all of the rules and the regulations that come along with this. These major chemical companies are driving this force. These major chemical companies are making it almost impossible now for farmers to purchase seeds, to grow the seeds, and to sell them for profit without any kind of interference. And in addition to that, what are they really raising? They are growing the property of a chemical company. That's what they're doing. Those companies own the seeds. Those companies own what goes into that ground. The farmer's just growing it. All of the contracts, all of the red tape, all of the investigations, all of the pop in and let's inspect the farms. This is really, truly property of those chemical companies that they are selling and that they're letting someone else grow and maybe make a little bit of money off of it. In addition to this, though, I do want you to realize that genetic modification really has not found any side effects, anything detrimental to your health in all of the years that we've studied them. There's no relationship between any GM and the mutations that come along with it, or any mutations. There's no issues with fertility, with pregnancy. Babies are not affected by GM products. Nothing out of the ordinary. Organ health, perfectly okay. Your liver and your kidney, your heart, they're all functioning the way that they're supposed to function. And more importantly, there's no evidence for what we call gene transfer. Remember, I said that if we grow something and a bug comes in and lands on it and eats it, and if this product has an internal pesticide, this bug dies. Well, what does it do to you? You're eating that pesticide just like the bug ate the pesticide. Nothing. It doesn't have an interference at all. So nothing here that we have seen in the years and years and years of GM, going back to the 90s, has ever alerted any scientist, any researcher, any data analyzer on GM foods. Nothing. But the things that come along with GM foods can, just like Roundup, just like glyphosate. We talked about those connections, those possible connections at least. But the food product itself is not having any change at all. So in the next video, we're going to talk about DNA basics. We're going to go back, we're going to quickly review in one video DNA, all the things that you need to know about DNA, all the basics that's going to make this thing work. And then I'm going to share some external videos with you so that way you can see people at work doing what they do best, and that's genetically engineering. So in the next video, come back, we'll talk a little bit more about the chemistries that go on here to give you some background information about really what is happening in the GE world as far as DNA is concerned.